This is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
It's Mark Fishkin here with Mike Battista tonight on Seeing Red. Recording earlier in the week, not only because the Red Bulls have a midweek match and we wanted to talk about it, but also because the Red Bulls crapped the bed at home in what is the worst result in Red Bull Arena history. In a derby game, conceding early on preventable errors, not fighting, and being booed off the field by their home fans. And we're going to talk about it. Before we get there, I know it's a strange dichotomy, but if you like the show, hit us up on YouTube, hit the like button, please subscribe. Hopefully better days ahead. But
Can I ask, are you shocked that this is the worst? Are you shocked that the team's never lost by like this many goals or allowed this many goals in 15 years of this or 14 years of this place?
No, I wasn't shocked. This by far, I mean, this is a team that for most of the time that the Red Bulls have played at Red Bull Arena has been the biggest home field advantage in league history, right? And they've constantly trumpeted the fact that since Red Bull Arena opened, the team has been often unbeatable there. And the differentiating between wins, losses, and draws is so great. You know, the points captured at home is so great. And that has happened despite a number of different phases and evolutions of the team. And so, look, the team's lost only twice at home this year. They're 7-2-7 at Red Bull Arena this year. But so, no, I wasn't shocked. And as we know, the team has made the playoffs every year, including this year, that they've played at Red Bull Arena. So that means, obviously, you got to play pretty well. Often you play pretty well at home, more often at home than on the road. So I just haven't seen a team capitulate. And the team has lost at Red Bull Arena, don't get me wrong, but capitulate in such a manner that was completely demoralizing. And the team was demoralized in the first half. 2 goals in the first 10 minutes on preventable defensive errors. Should have been a third after 10 minutes when NYC hit the crossbar. And it's completely unacceptable. I mean, you want to come out and draw a crappy Kansas City side at home because you think you're playing down to the level of your competition. NYC came into this match winless in 9. In 9. That's a third of that's a quarter of the MLS season, winless. And in the first 10 minutes, the Red Bulls showed that they weren't there to fight, that they weren't up for the task. And in a season, on a night when they've actually clinched playoffs because other teams are worse, I mean, fans left with 10 minutes to play, and I don't blame them. All right, I'm going to take a breath. What are your overall impressions of this gut kick? I mean, usually the gut kicks come after losing narrowly in the postseason. This was a gut kick where you just sort of played off your own field.
There's a sports clip that I like to go back to. It's from the early day. It's like from the late 2000s, early 2010s of the Pac-12, where there is just a rain-soaked Washington State game. Okay. And the game is a blowout loss for Washington State, and they'd pan up to the like nosebleeds of the stands.
Right.
And there's a guy drunk out of his mind with a bag of popcorn, and he just casually like opens his mouth trying to get a couple, and the whole bag just dumps over his face. And he doesn't care. He just eats the popcorn. It's like,
right. Right.
Whatever.
Too far.
Whatever. He is just like, where's going with the punches? And I felt like that. Besides the drunk part, I felt that just, yeah, this is happening. Like we're just gonna riff right now. After 20 minutes, after the third goal nearly went in,
yeah,
I was like, this is bad. The midfield is not working. The defense is not to each other. Andres Reyes and Daniel Letterman look completely lost without Sean Nealis there. Like, just Daniel Letterman's coming off a game wearing the captain's armband, and now he looks like he should be wearing the Red Bulls 2 captain's armband. It was rough, and I think it got so rough that I went into a lucid state of hilarity.
Right, you're over it, and it's just like hee.
Yeah, literally, like this is about to happen. All right, and I think the most telling part of it was when this sort of game happens, like when you see the Patriots Patriots destroy the Jets, and the Jets fans just had to take it. You see the Red Bull fans, and they're getting dunked on by NYCFC fans, and half the time going, yeah. And the NYCFC fans don't know how to handle that.
Right. They're like, yeah, we got clapped. Like, yeah, not up for it.
You have to fight back. And like, no, we're not fighting back.
There's no that could be made. I mean, in the 2-1 loss that the Red Bulls suffered at Citi Field, they also conceded very early, but then they fought. They fought really hard. Cam Harper had a banger, right? They tied the match, and they got pulled apart at the end of that match. And you walked, we've said it many times, like New York Red Bulls were not the better team that night, but at least they were in it. Like they were going for it. And after 8 minutes on Saturday, they weren't going for it. And yes, very happy to see Dante score, getting, having a nose for the goal. And for a time put the game back on somewhat of an even keel. But I mean, individually, from a playing standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, from a psychic standpoint, this was an abject failure. And this comes off the heels of 2 things that happened in rapid succession at the start of this week that I think we have to call out. One, there was an interview with Oliver Mintzlaff of Red Bull in Kicker magazine that Derek Ray translated that basically said, we thought America and MLS would be moving forward as a soccer nation at a quicker pace, and this is taking too long. At what point I pulled my skin off my head, and like the flaming skull like came out from like Ghost Rider, and I took a breath and I put it back, and I thought to myself, why haven't you done more to make this happen?
There's a very easy answer to that. He's frustrated with Major League Soccer. Okay. Him and the organization are frustrated with Major League Soccer. And that doesn't look. Red Bull is a frustrating organization, and there's a term that another journalist used where they are annoyingly German or annoyingly Austrian, where they have their ways. But what he means by that is,
I know what
Red Bull wants to go, and they want to get a player from they want to scout all across the country for youth players.
Yeah.
And they're told, no, that's LA's turfs. No, that's Texas's turf.
Aren't we doing away with this?
The map's still around right now. I don't know when they're getting around it, but like right now we can only take from North Jersey and like parts in like New York City, and that's it. So
okay.
I'm not excusing certain things Red Bull has done, but I do think that when he says that we think, soccer's not as far along as it should be, he's talking about stuff like that.
Okay. Sure. But the juxtaposition of my US-based pro team just shat the bed at home to their biggest rival, where homegrown players are being thrust on the field and performing incredibly poorly. And it's the Tim Robinson hot dog meme. I mean, make this team the absolute gem of American soccer then, right? Lead by example. You can absolutely have a youth development program, but at the same time become the absolute hottest ticket in town. And as we've been saying for a long time on the show, unless you're willing to do everything you can to win here, be quiet or get out of the way so someone can.
The team isn't providing Europe. The team isn't providing its own stuff.
Europe with a
players,
constant flow of talented players. I get it. I understand that. And that's how they see the value of this franchise. And that's the reason why nights like Saturday night happen, because they are not putting winning a title at the top of their list of things to do today. They're putting more quality players for the larger clubs in Europe. And in a city with more money than almost anywhere else in the country, save Silicon Valley or LA in the entertainment industry, someone could do this and actually want to win and do it. So that was point one. Your point's not not taken poorly. The other thing is that Red Bull marketing, as they had to today, pushed out solicitations for Red Bull playoff tickets, right? Come buy Red Bull playoff tickets. If anyone thinks after going 2-4-9 since June 1 and thinking that this team is going to make some noise in the playoffs and actually bellies up to the bar and buys tickets, I mean, you know, you can go to the casino and put it on red on the roulette wheel and see if that works out better for you. I mean, I understand that they have to do that, but has this team clinched playoffs in a worse way ever? The answer is no. I mean, there's back in and
last year.
Last year was amazing. They won.
This team was below the playoff line until last day.
It was a positive experience that got them into the playoffs.
Oh,
they
man, you got
earned a penalty kick.
We got punched in the stomach so many times, but man, they really made up for it.
They made up for it by taking a positive step into the postseason, not getting drubbed by your biggest rival by 4 goals at home in the worst loss in club history. And then, oh, by the way, some other crappier teams did crappier than you, and now you're in. Let's celebrate. I mean, I appreciate today, Mike, that we both were on the media call. You were in Whippany. I was on the call. You know, that Forsberg said, you know, we weren't celebrating making the playoffs. We had just gotten drilled. And he, I think, very rightly said, because the team does have 3 games to go, and we're going to talk about one of them in a few minutes. But, you know, the fact that the team needs to fight and the team needs bite. And sometimes, as he said, you have to play a little dirty. And I appreciate that he's not actually suggesting flaunting the rules, but you can play with edge, right? You can play with what Jess used to call the chip on your shoulder, and you can be a menace on the field without, you know, breaking the laws of the game. You just have to want it. And God, New York City wanted it so much better, so much more than the Red Bulls did on Saturday night. And it was a complete embarrassment. And so when the, you know, not good enough banner came up, I mean, they needed 5 or 6 exclamation points, because that banner lives in the South Ward for nights just like that. But I mean, just a complete capitulation, a complete embarrassment. I know that members of the supporters club apparently were giving the team the finger as they were going off the field, which, you know, is not the most couth way to say we disagree strongly with the effort put out here, but it certainly is an effective way to communicate that disgust.
Sure. I mean, look, they were frustrated. I think I saw one of them say that if anyone's wondering why we don't do TIFOs much anymore, this is why. Because the passion gets burnt out after a while of just seeing what they believe is non-improving results. Look, the best way to put it is that this is a team that is frustrating to watch, and it's been hard. I've been on the show like 3 or 4 times this year, and it feels like every time I come on, it gets harder and harder. But overall, does this team have enough to do anything in the playoffs? I don't think they have enough to win, but they could there's a chance to get past the first round, because it's the playoffs. We know the playoffs are stupid. The playoffs are the land of mystery, where Lionel Messi might get eliminated in the first round to a hot Charlotte team.
I don't see that
never
happening.
know. You know what, man? It's just, who knows? But look, it's the Metro playoff fever. Catch it.
I don't think. Listen, the team, as we talked to Sandro today, and as he said on Saturday night, like we haven't been eliminated. they have 3 games to get it right. And we'll talk about the playoff picture and what it looks like in a minute or two. But, they're guaranteed at least 2 more games, and they have 3 nights with just about everyone healthy. And you alluded to the lack of Sean Nealis in this lineup being a big deal, and having Reyes and Ayla have to figure stuff out together clearly is not working. But assuming he's back and healthy, this team has not had every player they've wanted on the roster healthy at the same time. The team did go 8-3-5 in the first part of the season. The question is how quickly they can motivate themselves and find that form and figure it out. And Forsberg will play more minutes than he did on Saturday night, and there's a question about his minutes that we'll get to. We're not having a guest tonight, by the way. We're just having this talk, and then we go right to emails, because I would not suggest, submit an outside guest outside of the family to have to deal with this. I'm not even going to click on the Bull of the Week banner. Instead, we're going to go right to the TFC preview. So there's no point. It's the worst loss at home in club history, and absolute embarrassment. All right, so let's take a look right now as we get going at the Eastern table, and then we'll get into TFC. Right, so here's a look. Orlando 46-13 wins. They have Philadelphia. They go to Cincinnati. The teams in the light colors are above the line. Just that's the differentiation. And then they have Atlanta at home. City 44 points and 12 wins. Remember, wins are the first tiebreaker. They have Cincinnati and then Nashville, and they go to Atlanta. There are the Red Bulls 44 points and 10 wins. And the fact that the Red Bulls have the fewest number of wins on this table means that they are really at a disadvantage here. They are at TFC on Wednesday, and then they go at Atlanta, and then they finish at home with MLS Cup champion Columbus. And then Charlotte is hanging around with 42 points and 11 wins. They have Chicago that's already been eliminated. They have Montreal, and then they finish at DCU on decision day. It is incredibly unlikely that the Red Bulls will be able to get above 4th. We've known this for some time, and the Red Bulls are right now 7 points above the line with 3 matches to go. Is it theoretically possible that they fall below 7th? It is, but it would. I mean, if Red Bulls wind up with 0, 1, or 2 points, they'll probably drop out of this group. But this is, about where they're going to finish. And again, the Red Bulls are not going to win any tiebreakers. So, not great, Bob. Let's talk about Toronto, shall we? They're the opponent. Wednesday at 7:30, the Red Bulls visit Toronto. They looked about bounce back from what may have been the most humiliating defeat in club history, certainly one of them. Toronto is actually in playoff position. They're 11-17-4 for 41 points. That's good enough for 8th in the East. That is not a good record for 8th. The East is absolute garbage. They've scored 39 and conceded 46 in 31 MLS games. They're not a 500 team at BMO. They only have the 10th best record in the East at home. Among their stats, they're near the bottom of the league in XG for the season. They've scored 39 goals on an XG of 36.8. Only Austin and New England have less XG for the season. They're 25th in MLS in big chances. Sound familiar? They don't get a lot of corners. They're near the bottom of the list in corners. Most yellow cards in the league with 87 yellow cards in 31 games. This is a terror squad. This is not a soccer team. And they've conceded the most goals in MLS after the 75th minute, and the highest percentage of goals conceded in 75th minute or beyond. So they've conceded the most goals in MLS and the largest percentage of the goals conceded after the 75th minute. Keep that in mind, late subs. Themes for the team. Oh, where you go? Here we go. Themes for the team. Similar but different. Normally, this team with a minus 17 goal differential would be nowhere near the playoffs, and that's evidenced by the fact that the closest playoff team to Toronto in terms of goal difference is Charlotte, who still have a difference of +3. But Toronto has made it work with 11 wins, which is one more than the Red Bulls and every team below them, giving them leeway in the playoff race. With the amount of goals conceded and their lopsided goal difference, you could be fooled into believing the Toronto team is similar to those of recent years. But the table doesn't lie. Toronto already has 11 more points than they did last year. and they have 2 games to better that statistic. And then attacking issues, much like New York, they consider themselves to be fortunate to be in the position they're in. They've done a fair bit of groundwork early in the season. They've scored just once in their last 3 MLS games. Woof. And their attack has floundered through most of the season with a lack of a proven 9, which turned out to be a moot point against City that last time out. However, the striker position is of concern, with their strikers combining for only 11 goals this season, which is fewer than Alfonso Martinez has for NYC and also fewer than Alex Morgan. Toronto has gone 1-3-1 in their last 5 MLS games, including a 3-1 loss at home to DC, a 2-1 loss, their lone win was against Austin. They lost at home 2-0 to Columbus. Then they went to Colorado. They lost 2-0. And then their last time out in the league this past weekend, a 1-1 draw at Chicago, where they conceded in the 84th minute. There they go, conceding late again. This team also played and lost in the Canadian Championship after a scoreless draw. They lost on pens to Vancouver. So there you go. They struggled. 45th minute all time between the teams. The Red Bulls have a significant lead. Of course, the last time they met, New York did. The game was certainly a lot closer than the 3-0 drubbing at Red Bull Arena in the league earlier in the summer. It was a 5-4 loss on penalties in the League's Cup after a scoreless draw. The Red Bulls at Toronto, 6-7-8. That's a very respectable away record all time. The Red Bulls are not going to have any fear going into BMO. In the series, the Red Bulls haven't lost in regulation to Toronto in 5 years. And the Red Bulls are 3-1-2 at BMO since 2017. All-time leader, BWP, the surprise of no one. All-time active scorer is Lewis Morgan, who had 4. And, of course, he had that great hat trick very early in his Red Bulls career. Here is what John Herdman's lineup may look like. You can call it a 3-4-2-1. You can call it a 5-2-2-1. As long as you don't call it late for dinner. Sean Johnson is 35 years old. He has 9 clean sheets in 28 games, and he is in net for TFC. Going around the back, we'll start with Richie Larea, who is the winger here. A goal and 2 assists from the Canadian. The center backs, Raul Peretta, an Italian, with a goal and 3 assists. Kevin Long, no relation, with a goal. Sigurd Rosted, a 30-year-old Norwegian. And then on the right side, working his magic is Bernadeschi. He of the questionable hair decisions, with 9 goals and 7 assists on the season, leads TFC and has been often frustrated by Red Bulls in the past. The center mids, Alfonso Coelho, a 24-year-old Spaniard, with a goal and 2 assists. Debbie Flores, a Honduran, with a goal and 2 assists. Insigne is still on this team. He's 33, 7 and 6. John Anasorio has been in this league more than a minute, mostly with Toronto, 3 and 2. And up top, DeAndre Kerr, a 21-year-old homegrown, with 8 goals and 2 assists. Derek Etienne is out for this team, MLS Cup champion, not with the Red Bulls, you might be aware. Henry Wingo is out. Nicholson Gomez is out. Mike, there's no reason to think anything will be better, because it hasn't been. Toronto hasn't clinched a playoff spot yet. They are behind the Red Bulls, and they can make it even tougher on New York. I'm not convinced that anything that I say when it comes to predictions will come true, because till we see it, we don't believe that this team can find their form that they showed in the first half of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'll say this. The fact that Toronto only has 2 games left, like they're not going to play this Saturday. They have this and decision day.
Right.
Which
even more,
puts them.
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Even more pressure.
Yeah. So they know that anything they do, they have to do it now. They can't focus on this. They can't have that magic moment on decision day, because they might get pulled out before that, because Montreal and Philly, was it Philly?
Yeah.
They're, and Atlanta,
right around them.
I think they're right there too.
Yep.
So you have, for them, they are really behind the 8 ball. On the other hand, do I think Rebels are going to take losing 5-1, laying down? I don't want to think so. I really don't. So do I think that they could get a win on Wednesday? Sure. I might as well just go, yeah, we're all going to be fine.
With the Red Bulls gaining a point, they'll assure themselves of finishing above Toronto, as you said, because they only have 2 games left. Toronto can't catch the Red Bulls on the table with their 2 games. The most they can get to is 43 points. It was incorrect on my screen earlier. They're on 37 points. Yeah, right. But this is it. This is the whole ball of wax with Toronto. It's going to be very, very difficult. Right. They're on 37. Philadelphia's on 37. Montreal's below the line and on 37. Atlanta's on 34. DC's on 34. So they're going to be giving it all. Before we go to emails, my friend, I mean, we have to see a response. There has to be a response. And I would like to believe that a healthier Forsberg, this is literally why you get the guy. Because when things are down, here's a consummate pro surrounded by younger players that are less experienced, and he's got to drive them.
Agreed. I also think that this team has a lot of players who are going to take last weekend hard. I honestly think, I can't believe I'm about to say this out loud on recording.
Do it.
3-1 win Red Bulls.
I mean, New York has had success here.
I think, yeah. I think there's going to be Cameron Harper knows that third after Dante Van Zier cut the lead in half. Cameron Harper made it a 10 versus 11 because he had to go out, get a band wrapped around his head, and the officials wouldn't let him in. He was mad, and he knows that it's not his fault anything else happened, but he's going to be taking that. I think you could see a goal from him. I don't think you see a goal from Emil Forsberg. I'm sorry. The dude he did not look great in his 30 minutes. Do I think that Dante could make it 3 in a row? No. I don't think we're going to see that consistency from him. Do I think Manuel can score? Yes. I think Lewis Morgan's going to score because we haven't seen him from a hot minute. I think that he's got history against this team. So I think we're going to see goals from both Celtic guys and maybe Manuel.
I'll call it a 1-1 draw because this team is going to get back to getting their points one at a time instead of none at a time. When we're back on Seeing Red, we're going to go straight to your emails. And there are some spleens being vented, folks. Keep it here, won't you?
Oh, no.
Thanks. I played the music a little bit longer because I wanted people to take a psychic breath before we get into the hot garbage that is the Red Bull, the Seeing Red mailbag. You can write us anytime at seeingredny@gmail.com. So many emails that we did not get a chance to, we won't have a chance to read everybody's, but we'll take them as we see fit. Thank you, as always, for supporting the show. Benjamin Amaya writes, hello, Mark and the Seeing Red crew. It's quite obvious how everyone feels about the result. I've been going to Red Bulls since last year. God bless Benjamin and Amaya, who's only been coming to Red Bulls since last year. So I'm new to the fan experience, and this game was the first where I left early. But don't worry, I still got to hear the fans celebrate when the 5th goal was scored as I left. A night full of errors, however, throughout the season. I've seen the same style of play that hasn't been working. Sure, the moment Emil was subbed on, the build-up play improved. However, I've never seen a team that plays sideways so much and a team that are afraid to shoot. I still have hope for this team and will support them no matter what. All I'll say is that in other leagues, if a team has not won in months and they get embarrassed at home by their city rivals, that coach in charge is getting looked at. Best wishes to Ben. I don't think that Sandro Schwartz in his first season is getting looked at by Red Bull management. What say you, sir?
Nah, they know that this is his first year. He had that interview earlier in the year where essentially he was told you're not expected to win the title in your first year. This is the understanding, trying to figure it out year, build your team for next year. So, hey, if by midway through the season, they're below the playoff line, that's when the hot seat's really hot. But right now, no.
Yeah, and I mean, he's done the modicum, which is get the team across the playoff line, even though the playoff line keeps getting lower and lower, it seems, on the table to qualify, an easier road. And, again, this team is in 4th place through most of the year, and now they're in 6th out of 15 teams. And yes, I'm not sugarcoating the fact that the team is in a very bad way, but Schwartz is not in trouble. But Benjamin, thank you so much for writing. I really appreciate it. From day one, Corey Jameson, fan of Seeing Red, writes, "Dear Mark and seers of the red variety, after a 5-1 drubbing at home to crosstown rivals, I think it's time to go outside and touch grass on the 24 Red Bull season. The promising start to the season is now gone as pear-shaped as possible, and there's no hope in saving it. The team is out of answers. The coach is out of answers. And when your front office's biggest addition over the summer is a giant stuffed animal, they have shown you that they too are out of answers. Match day has gone from the highlight of your week to a great day to schedule LASIK surgery, because let's face it, you have to spend 24 hours not using your eyes, and that's a good day as any. We have yet to see this failed season we have to see this failed season for what it is. Another year of Austria putting youth, growth, and potential ahead of a realistic effort to win a title. We all deserve better. Thank you so much for all you do, getting the show and getting us through this." Corey Jameson. Any comments about scheduling your LASIK surgery for game day?
No, I can't. When I hear comments like that, I get it. And for an organization that had an uptick in attendance this year, and even
significant uptick,
even my jaded self, who was just going to say, "Oh, it's just, season ticket holders trying to get to see Messi," coming week after week, I'm like, no, wait, there's actually
the crowds
the crowds look better, and it's not just the tarp being moved around. And it's kind of a shame that that's kind of where I see a lot of people at. I know people in the supporters groups are, the only reason I'm coming is because I like the supporters group, which is not a healthy ecosystem. The only reason some fans come is for the promotion. They want to see the fireworks. They want to see the giveaway. And I'm like, that's not good for that's not good for the future of this fan base.
Well, that really leads very nicely into our next email from the grave under Giant Stadium, which I know has been raised. It's Jimmy Hoffa, who says, "This is a Major League Baseball team. No ambition, no pride, no sense of urgency, no investment. Exists solely for event nights, not exciting or fun, not particularly effective, not interested in creating an identity or a fan base. Exists for development. This is a central axiom of this project. You can accept that, go to a game, and pretend it's the Somerset Patriots or the Brooklyn Cyclones. If I continue to go, that will allow me to mentally have fun and compartmentalize. Everyone has to abandon expectations that this team exists to create a fun and successful sporting product. And we're speaking purely about the regional identity. City just overtook us as the Equipo Popular. We were the fun team that was slaying the corporate retirement home when they first joined the league. They won a championship, are branding well, are getting a stadium, and building a fun version of the game. They actually outpressed us, which is our entire identity. They have a badge that isn't an energy drink logo. We had a chance during the Red Wedding years to reestablish our fan base in the area, but we let it slip and left the door open for them. Not only do we lose New York, but New Jersey is even at risk. Now they are the fun team making YouTube videos about blogs, podcasts, and websites. We're dying. It's Oakland A's energy. You know it, Mark. Maybe we can get a beer and sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" together, Jimmy. That's about as damning an appraisal of what this team is as I've read. And I've only read that email since I read Corey Jameson's. Any critical comments?
I think when you see every night, every home game this year was a theme night.
Yes.
And that's very minor league baseball. There was a Christmas party, I remember last year, where one of the front office members said, "I need to learn what a theme night was. I need to know why we had to have fireworks nights." And it is that's where the team is. I will push back on the Oakland A's thing just because that's the hot topic right now. Because as bad as the Red Bulls are, the Oakland
Mhm.
A's were self-sabotaging to move. The Red Bulls ain't going to move, but the Red Bulls are doing what they're doing, and they're going to keep doing it. They're not trying to move to Las Vegas. I don't know what their end game is. That's the thing. At least with the Oakland A's, you can look at the evil and go, well, yeah, they're trying to get to their final goal here. But
Right.
what's the Red Bulls' final goal in all this? Just make more star players for the rest of the world. But I don't know.
I mean, I think that's right. And we've talked about it through much of this season. 10 years ago, the game was enough. And during the Shield era, the team was enough. The team brought players to the stadium. And perhaps in a world that has changed mightily over the last 10 years, a sporting world where it's literally the razzmatazz and the extra off the field stuff, a stuffed animal, as Corey said, that is exciting fans in the stadium. I'm old and I'm a curmudgeon. Fans shouldn't be doing the wave during a soccer game. They should be watching the soccer. And in an effort to bring new fans in theory, because the old fans have had it with the post-game traffic and the PATH train delays, they're desperately trying to bring new blood into the stadium. And they're not wrong to do that. But for fans of a certain age or fans that have been supporting for many, many years, it just is a very different feel that isn't necessarily about the soccer. And maybe any successful business would try to insulate around team performance as an arbiter of attendance. And as we know, I mean, years ago, I heard a sponsorship seller for this team basically say, it doesn't matter how the team is playing. The fans come or they don't based on factors outside team performance. And, that's why it's, as Jimmy Hoffa says, that's why it's the Somerset Patriots or the Brooklyn Cyclones. You're not going to see the team win. You're not going for the game. You're going to have a great night out.
And look, you can say the same thing about to Jimmy's, I'm going to push back on something else too, which is he brings up New York City FC. Did New York City FC winning an MLS Cup actually have an effect on the stands?
I mean, I think they were in a unique position because of the lack of home stadium. And as we've also talked about for years on the show, once that stadium opens, there are going to be a lot of people returning to that team and buying season tickets because it will be a hot ticket. I mean, I don't necessarily think winning a cup automatically set the fan base on fire there. And let's be frank, they were, again, winless in 9 coming into this game.
Yep.
So the idea that magically, all of a sudden, because they have a 5-1 win in the series, that folks are rushing to them, and it may be that Jimmy is very far into it to believe that, but New York was outscored 7-2 in 2 games against them this year. I really hope.
Look, you brought up the stadium. Let's look at it like this: winning the MLS Cup didn't do much for them, even after COVID. Beating the Red Bulls 5-1, it's not going to do much for them. Building a new stadium, that's going to do a lot for them. Red Bull Arena, built in 2010. Hey, how did the Red Bulls do in 2009?
They weren't good.
Exactly, but no one cared, and that stadium had a lot of people in it in 2010. It's factors outside the game that matter more than how good your soccer team is. Soccer is a very boring game, and families don't care. They want to go for other reasons.
What are we doing here? What? Okay. Soccer's a boring game and people don't want to go?
To families. Look, I once read a quote from Pablo from The Athletic, which was, my favorite stories writing about soccer is when I don't talk about soccer.
Right.
And a lot of time I get that. And I enjoy watching the tactics. I enjoy that. But for a stadium of 25,000, you're not getting that. You're going to get like 18,000. You go, I just want to go see a couple. I want to go see a eight goals scored. I want to see a melee. And that's that. For people who aren't like us, who want to enjoy the game and like try to figure stuff out, they're going for other reasons. And that's always been the case.
In a market of 15 million people, you can find 25,000 people that are passionate about the game. And maybe after 15 years, they've had them come through the doors and then they're done with it. So, I mean, I understand the idea of having, mom and dad and a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old looking for a fun thing to do. That was me years ago, right? And instill in my kids a love of the game, and they've each attended 150 MLS games in their lives, and soccer became a very big part of their lives, and they do enjoy watching it. So, but I understand the idea of the casual sports fan who may or may not have come from soccer, but as Alexi Lawless once said, this has to be a better alternative to going bowling or going to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm dead serious. This has to matter. That the game has to matter and the team has to matter. It's not just a night at the Somerset Patriots, which is literally a night out where the score doesn't matter. So,
Yep.
All right, let's move on. Adam Lane. If Forsberg was definitely going to play, why not just start him? Allow him to set alone for the game and then take him out when he hits a wall. I sincerely doubt that the first half looks anywhere near as bad as it did if Forsberg was in the starting 11. It's not a surprise the Red Bulls came out and looked like this. We've watched this team struggle for months to put in a quality performance. His team needed a shot in the arm, and this game was far too important to have him on the bench. We learned today that the plan from Schwartz was to get him about 25 minutes. Does it matter that it happened in the middle of the second half? Or he started from moment one? Mike.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you're going to go from somewhere else.
No. That was not a rhetorical question, but an actual one.
Look, yeah, I had the feeling from the start that he wasn't starting.
Right.
You're out for 2 months.
Right.
You're not starting a game. You're not starting a critical game against a rival, which can get very physical when you just had a foot injury. He needs to get he needs to get the grass under his feet. I debate whether bringing him in when it's 4-1 actually did anything, but he did need to get some minutes. I don't think starting him would have done any difference. I don't think it's smart to do that. We had Lewis Morgan take a penalty kick and then go last year in Leagues Cup, and then he was injured again. Yeah. So, I mean, we've already had this multiple times where players come back, we push them out like right away, and then it's fine, like they'll be fine, and then they get hurt again. I would not want that sort of situation to happen with Forsberg, where wow, it's getting really physical out there, because we didn't know what kind of game it was going to be. So yeah.
I guess the counterpoint to that is perhaps 4-1 was the perfect time for him to go on, because the game state was not so intense. And you need to have him on the field, just even definitely for the playoffs. And if the goal is to slowly ramp him, so for the first playoff series, he is 100% engaged and fit. And he said today, I'm 100% fit. But they're gonna certainly continue to work him up over these last 3 games, and he will play more. I don't know if he starts on Wednesday, but I could certainly see him starting the second half. And then the goal would be to get him fully engaged for Atlanta away. You can make the argument, although it cannot be disproven, like there would be no wars if I was president, cannot be proven, but because we don't have a time machine. But the idea of those 2 goals not happening because Forsberg's on the field, who knows? But thank you, Adam, nonetheless, for your note. Here's Alex Shalom, excuse me. My apologies, who wrote before the game and had some interesting questions about NYCFC that we would like us to discuss as Red Bulls focused show. What are your thoughts on NYCFC using Red Bull Arena when Yankee Stadium and Citi Field are being used for baseball? I'm not a fan of their using our arena for regular season or playoff games. And remember, with both the Yankees and the Mets in the postseason, although who knows for how long, let's go Mets. We don't know if those stadiums will be available in the playoffs, or at least for the early rounds. It bothers me that our rival uses it as our home. However, it does stop NYC fans from making you should play the New Jersey Red Bulls. You should be the New Jersey Red Bulls argument, since they are playing in New Jersey. So that's a plus. What are your thoughts? We'll take these 3 questions as they come. What's your thought on NYC? They're playing Nashville at Red Bull Arena this weekend.
And FC Cincinnati coming up. I don't care. I make the joke every time saying, rent's due. Like that's it. The Jets and Giants share a stadium and no one cares.
They built it together.
They built it together. And even before that, they shared stadiums multiple times. I personally have found it very funny that MLS rules and stadium guidelines mean that they can play in a stadium that's either across the river and get 2,000 fans, or they have to go to Connecticut and get like 1,000 fans. But if they want to play a game at, say, St. John's or Randall's Island, that's out of the picture because it's not big enough, even though they'll sell it out instead of like having a stadium that's only like 1% full.
Right.
That's more on them and more on MLS. But for our sake, I don't care. Hey, just don't track dirt in, don't break the seats, and the rent's due at the end of the month. That's really it.
The way I think about it is you have to remember that as a single entity league, a team is just using another home office for another part of another team in the network. So it doesn't really bother me.
There's a timeline. There's a timeline where we have an LA Galaxy Chivas USA situation where both teams just share a stadium, like forever.
Well, I don't like that timeline. That timeline I don't like. The only reason I like it is because then the Jersey crap has to go out the window.
Yeah, and that shouldn't even be a thing. Why do we care? That only started to matter
because people care about maps, my friend.
No one cared about that until NYCFC started. No one cared.
Well,
no one cares about the NFL. No one cares about it with anything else.
I will tell you that I was at a baseball game this weekend in the mid part of the country, and someone from Buffalo was there harping about the only football team that plays in the state of New York. And I said, no one in New York is thinking about Buffalo ever.
Wide right.
Part 2 from Alex's email. Are you excited about NYCFC stadium plans? I hate watching them play and win on a baseball field. I think it's embarrassing for the league. However, someone who hates NYCFC, I feel like that holds them back from being an MLS powerhouse in soccer-loving New York. A new stadium could bring more attention and love to our league. So unselfishly, I think it will be great for the league and New York soccer. I agree 100%. I look forward to going there. I look forward to Red Bulls winning there. And I think the fact that they have been allowed to exist for so long, they'll have been around for what, 15 years by the time 13 years by the time the stadium opens. I mean, very similar to Red Bull Arena opening. It's a very similar timeline from 96 to 2010, right? From 2013 to 2028. I mean, it's the same thing. So I think it will be a good thing.
It's going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
It'll be a good thing. I think after the Lionel Messi Inter Miami game 2 weeks ago, there was a comment from an NYCFC fan who said there were a bunch of new fans at that game who got excited and then said, hey, when's the next game? And when they found out it was in New Jersey, they got really disappointed. And that's probably lost them fans.
Okay.
And I don't know about that. But it does. But I will say at that point, when you don't have a stable stadium situation, it's not great. So getting them out of Yankees, as much as I love to make fun of it, as much as I really wanted the 2021 MLS Cup final to be NYCFC versus Real Salt Lake, because then it would have been at Yankee Stadium. Right. I would have loved that, but it is what it is. But it's gonna be good for the game of soccer when that stadium opens.
Agreed. Lastly, how much does the Hudson River Derby need a playoff series? I think desperately needs one to be considered an elite MLS rivalry. This could be the year, and I would love to see it. Red Bulls and NYCFC need new reasons to hate each other, and a playoff series could do the trick. Thanks for all the podcast. Wish Joe a speedy recovery, and let's go Red Bulls. Agreed on the last point. I mean, before last week, we talked to Roberto Abramowitz about how, boy, it would be great if these teams met in the playoffs. I don't think it needs that to be considered an elite MLS rivalry. I don't think there are I don't think there are too many rivalries like this rivalry. And would I like another shot for the Red Bulls at NYC this year? Yes. Do I think they have the talent to beat them? Not sure. Do I think it would make for gripping sports playoff TV? Yes. Do I want to have to endure it? No. So, eventually that's the way these teams could be the 5-4 matchup if certain things would have to happen, but that could absolutely happen. I don't think that's going to happen this year.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. I don't think this is the year. So we've come to an end of a terrific Seeing Red, if only for the quality of our discussion and not for necessarily the state of the team right now. I'll only say that they have an opportunity to learn from this. They have an opportunity to take getting punched in the teeth and showing up without fight and without drive and turning that into positive energy that gets them forward and moves them along. And they've got, this team has played down to the level of its opponents all year long, and the team has missed important players all year long, but they got across the line. And after decision day, all the counters go back to zero. And there's no reason, I'm going to say it, that the team can't put together a playoff run other than their own shortcomings. And they just have to take the opportunities that are afforded them. And this game was as depressing and as disturbing as any result that we've seen out of Red Bull Arena in a very, very long time. But it's done, and we have to be like both Schwartz and Forsberg said today. There's nothing to do about it. You just have to take the lumps and grow, and hopefully they will do that. Whether that growth leads to success this year or not, I have no idea. But nevertheless, Mike, it's fantastic to talk about a very, very tough night at Red Bull Arena with you, sir. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. This was awful in the best way.
Awful in the best way. Thanks to Zach Feldman for stats. We may be back before the Atlanta game on the weekend. Nevertheless, Wednesday night, 7:30, Red Bulls at Toronto. Joe Goldstein, we're sending you our thoughts every single day, and we're thinking about you. Thank you so much for watching episode 590 of Seeing Red. Have a good night, everyone.